Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very, very well. Welcome back to another podcast, a day after Chelsea beat Manchester United 1-0 in the Premier League. We've had to go virtual for this one because a little bit of a confusion with the studio times. Honestly, what I should have done, Charlie, is... And Scott, you don't work Saturdays either, do you?
Sometimes I do, but it's normally like in the mornings.
Oh, did you work today?
Yeah, I work 9 to 1 today.
Oh, fair enough. So I work on Saturdays basically the whole morning until early afternoon, and I thought, okay, we'll do it at 4 o'clock and it'll be fine. But I didn't think maybe other people wouldn't be around. So what I should have done is just said do it in the morning, and I wouldn't have been able to make it. But actually, three people probably could have done it. So I think we've ended up paying for a studio slot that we're not using, which is not ideal. But hey. It is what it is. So we're doing a virtual one today, guys. And positive news: Crystal Palace, FA Cup champions instead of Man City. That's always refreshing to see. Me and Charlie, we were just talking about that as well. Refreshing to just see another team win a trophy.
Yeah, and it's also good. Another good day for the Arsenal haters. It's another team that's won a trophy more recently than them. So yeah, it's good news all round. Yeah, I mean, and you got Ben Chilwell getting himself an FA Cup winners medal as well. I mean, I don't think he played, but yeah, he's played a part in the earlier rounds.
The competition. Did he play against Millwall?
Oh no, the competition. I mean, in the final, he didn't play. So yeah, a medal for Chile and possibly future Chelsea player Mark Gurhey lifting the cup as well. So yeah, a positive afternoon all round, mate.
Mate, I'll tell you what. Obviously, the news of Dean Huijsen going to Madrid. I mean, that's been quick. We'll talk about that. In a bit, but Mark Gurhey for me, he's got to be the next one. Like yeah. I would have been happy with both of them. I said I wanted both, and then I said I want Jonathan Tah if we can't, can't get well, as an addition. Actually, I didn't even say that. I would have got all three of them, but for me, Mark Gurhey is a must. Just spend it. Just get the man in. He is quality, and is one of his defensive headers. I mean, Palace had some great defending throughout the game, but that was crucial in not conceding. 40 mil, would you do it, Scott?
Yeah, he's always been my number one ahead of Huijsen. Yeah, like there's so many things he brings to the table. I know there's a question of him aerially, but I thought you see today he was very good. But just the leadership he brings on the pitch, the the comfortableness, I know it's not a word, but playing in a back three and a back two. And yeah, just
isn't it? Yeah, he's
very probably a better word, but yeah, he just brings that to a team, and I think that's the one thing, especially in defense. I know we picked it up recently, but we're lacking, I think, across the season. And yeah, like I said, he's always been my number one. I would spend that money. That I think, like you said, 40, maybe 50 mil, I think is maybe what they want. And yeah, that's what I do immediately. I agree, we do need two, and that begs the question of who else we get. But I think if you could only get one, it would have to be Gurhey.
Jonathan Tah's my second one, and you get him on a three as well.
Is it done?
Is it official?
It's not done, but this will be the third year in a row, I think, that he's been, or second year in a row where he's been heavily linked to Bayern.
It's virtually done.
And he's not signing a new contract, so he will be leaving on a free.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's not over till it's over, people. And I mean, years ago I would have been like, fair enough, we can compete with Bayern for a signature, but I don't know if I feel like that right now. We certainly weren't going to compete with Real Madrid for Huijsen. I don't think we'll have. Well, we will have competition for Mark Gurhey, but I think that he would rather come to us than other clubs like Newcastle. At least I hope that he would rather come to us.
Well, I mean, I think with Palace now having Europa League football, I think he will only leave if there's Champions League. But then but also you've got a situation where he's got two choices, right? If he stays at Palace, then he's going to have to sign some sort of new deal because they're not going to want to lose him on a free. So he either stays there and signs a new deal that has a set release clause in it so he can go, or he's going to be in a situation where he has to leave this summer. But that's the decision that he's got to make, basically. But I'd be surprised if he did stay. He's captained them to the first trophy in their history. I think he's been there 3-4 years now. He's done really well. He's really
longer than that. Yeah,
I think he joined in 2021, so yeah, about 4 years maybe. He's established himself as England's best centre back right now. I think it probably is time for him to take that next step. But given Palace have got Europa League, and given teams that we might be competing for Gurhey with, I don't think we can just rely on the fact that he's a Chelsea boy as such. I think we are going to need to be able to offer a bit more than that, which is why we've got to get this top 5 spot. If we get a top 5 spot, then I'd probably make us favourites to get him.
Yeah. Gurhey for me. If we can get him, I mean, that's solid. And then we need a striker, midfield, goalkeeper. We've already got some additions. Hey, it would be very tasty if we can get all 4 of those positions sorted. Winger, left back, that's a bonus. Let's talk about United, guys. Scott, I presume you watched the game?
I did. Not a great performance, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because we've got the 3 points. These are the type of results I can accept, or these are the type of games I should say I can accept that. Not playing at your best, playing quite horribly for most of the game, but then getting the 3 points. I think at the moment, considering where our season is, that's all that matters. And especially getting some big performances from a couple players, the usual suspects at this point. It's a massive positive, and I think it's still in our hands. We went from being 6th up until that goal, and it being completely out of our hands on the final day to it's now in our hands. All we need to do is beat Forest, who aren't in good form, and we're qualified. And especially if they drop points against
West Ham.
What's it called? That's the one. If they drop points against West Ham, they mathematically can't catch us, and it's just Villa we're basically battling against, and City probably as well. But you'd expect both of those teams to win.
I don't know. You say that, right? City, I don't think City are a done deal yet. They've got Bournemouth at home and then Fulham away as their last 2 games. Now, that's not easy. I'm not saying they're definitely going to drop out, but with the way that they're playing, they've just lost the FA Cup final now. Things aren't going particularly well. I wouldn't totally bet against them potentially dropping out.
No, that's probably fair. And I think actually more think about Villa. I think Villa get in because they're playing United, and we saw the game yesterday. That is a terrible, terrible United side. Yeah. That's genuinely. I know it gets said a lot, and it's obviously where they are. That's the worst United side I've ever seen. Comfortably the worst United side I've ever seen play football. So you'd expect them to win, and then that's them 69 points. I think it is. So yeah, it probably is us or City is that last spot. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be huge if City miss out.
Yeah, I can't even believe we're having they should have been the ones to easily qualify, but I do agree that they could easily slip up. And Bournemouth's at home. I mean, Bournemouth turn up at times. We'll see. And then
Bournemouth went to Newcastle and won 4-1, I think. So they're capable of pulling big results out of the bag. Yeah.
What's their run of form been like recently? Has it been good?
And they lost to Villa last time out, didn't they? But I don't know what they've done before.
I feel like it's been relatively up and down. Obviously, they had a great start and then they had a big blip. And I feel like they're starting to bounce back ever so slightly, but maybe it's a little bit more of a stepping stone than just an uptrend.
They just beat Arsenal.
They beat Arsenal.
Yeah,
yeah. So they won their last away game. So you never know.
One thing that was interesting about what's that, mate?
It's been a bit up and down recently. A lot of draws from what I'm looking. But yeah, they lost to Villa, beat Arsenal, drew with United, drew with Palace, beat Fulham as their last 5. But it's not an easy game. And then they obviously Fulham, but at the end of the day, even if they win those games, like I said, we just got to win our game, and then whatever happens. It doesn't matter.
Interesting as well when you look at the possession stats against United. We actually had less possession than they did throughout the match, which is a similar trend to what we saw against Liverpool. Liverpool was about 35%. It was very, very low, probably the lowest I've seen the whole season. Really looking to utilize our counter attacks and obviously sitting slightly deeper than we would normally. United a little bit higher than that. It's about 50-50. It's 47-53, but still in their favour. What did we make about the way we set up? Obviously, there was a. Let's just start tactically, and then we can break down the players individually as well.
I wasn't surprised by how we set up, to be honest. I think Maresca went with the lineup that I expected, and I think probably a lot of Chelsea fans expected. I mean, in terms of the tactics, and I said to you last night, Alex, like again, I was surprised as to why, like against Newcastle, why are we going long to someone who is not the most physical, not the tallest, not good in the air particularly? Why are we going long to Tyreek George and expecting him to win headers against the likes of Lindelof and Maguire and hold the ball up against them? I didn't understand that. And again, it wasn't just like, oh, every so often we're going long. It was like it was the plan because it was every time again. And I just didn't understand that.
Why do you think we did it then? Like, I mean, because my thing was this, because we had this conversation after as well. I think that there's obviously a tactical aspect to it because there's got to be a reason. I mean, it can't just be. I'm not just going to sit here and make conspiracy theories, but there's also a part of me that just thinks maybe Maresca is not willing to risk losing out because of a stupid mistake by his goalkeeper, and he's just saying, "Listen, Robert, you know what, mate? If you're not comfortable, go long." And he doesn't want to see silly mistakes like we saw against Brighton and other games that could cost us. I mean, can you imagine against Nottingham Forest, a short pass, misplaced, give the ball away, they score, and that's how we miss out?
Well, I can imagine that, yeah.
No, I mean, we can imagine, definitely. But maybe that's part of the reason that he's been given a license to be able to go up the pitch more is, although his distribution is rubbish anyway, it's less risky if we concede the ball on the halfway line than it is if we concede it within closer to our own box. That's the only reason that I can think of that's logical. I don't understand why you would do it.
It's just it just doesn't make sense though, because like Sanchez got mistaken him anyway, like no matter where he is on the pitch. And like you saw with his, I think as a joke when we were doing a watch long last night, I checked his long ball stats. He was 2 from 9 in the first half, accurate.
Yeah,
and then in the second half it was 1 from 8. So like, I don't, whether it's a tactic, because the thing to me is the reason I don't think it's a tactic, but because it wasn't moments when he's like always under pressure. There were moments where he'd get the ball from a centre back. I remember there was one in the second half where ball goes back to him, I think from Enzo. He stops the ball. Tosin picks the ball up from him. He passes it across to Sanchez, who's under no pressure, and just hoops it long, and we lose it. That's not a moment under pressure where you have to like just don't make a decision, don't make a mistake. Like that's just stupidness. And I think it does come from Maresca. Like I don't think Maresca is telling him to hoof it, but I don't think there's a willingness for Maresca to like telling him to stop, if that makes sense. But it's just not it's not working. And I agree with Charlie. It was so much of what we did in that first half, especially, was so similar to Newcastle, and it was like we didn't learn. We were playing a team that was pressing us higher at the pitch. They've got two in midfield. There are 2 willing runners who are able to, despite the faults they have as players, and there are many. The 2 things they can do is press well, and they have a gas tank. And instead of trying to play through that or play around that, it was just playing into it. Like we had no one in the midfield outside of Caicedo, and even he's not the most press resistant, but no one could take the ball under pressure. And I include Palmer and Enzo in that. There was no one who could take a first touch, it looked like. No one could break the lines with a pass, it looked like. Like some of the passing out the back was awful. And then when we did get to the final third, it was this incessant need to play it wide, cut to the byline and cross to no one. We've got a 5'11" striker who's not a striker against 6'4" centre-backs. And we had this incessant need, again, like we did against Newcastle, of get to the byline or cut it back and cross. And it wasn't a cross that was, you look at like the Reece James cross, that was weighted. This was Neto getting to the byline and hitting a bullet across the face of the box, trying to take someone's head off. No one's connecting with that. Like, even if we have an actual striker, no one's getting that because you've hit it at the speed of light. Like, no one is connecting with it. So,
yeah, go on.
More of the same as we saw against Newcastle, especially in that first half.
Go on. No,
you go.
I was going to quickly say like that. Not that it matters, because this point of the season's not about critiquing performances. But if you were asking me to, that first really 65, 70 minutes was arguably some of, if not the worst football we've played. It was. No, it genuinely was.
You know what's funny though? Do you know what's funny is the amount of games where we've said that this season. That's a damning statement.
But it was though. Like, it just didn't look like we were particularly up for it. I know Maresca had a decent chance in that first. But as Scott said, we get the ball wide, and you'll get, Neto will run at a player, or he'll get to the byline, but there's no one in the box, and then B, instead of maybe sort of thinking, oh, maybe I'll do a cut back into a dangerous area and maybe hope someone might arrive, it's almost like just a smash across goal, hit and hope that it might take a deflection or it might fall at someone's feet or whatever, like a bit of a pinball situation. I tell you, I know this might sound mad, but I tell you what we do miss, right? And someone that used to get to the byline and would be pretty good at a well-weighted cutback, even though often there wasn't anyone there, or when there was someone there, they'd mess it up. Mudryk was really good at that, getting to the byline and then the cutback across the face of goal. Like, he'd done that on a number of occasions, and either there'd be no one there, or whoever it is in the box would mess it up. We don't really have anyone right now who is putting a decent delivery into the box. I know obviously James did last night, but I mean from the wide players necessarily. Like, the end product from the wide players in terms of kind of crossing or passing in the final third is not particularly good.
You know what's interesting as well is looking at that game. Like, I totally agree with you. If you look at the fluidity of our football and the tactical approach, etc., like it didn't look great. I mean, it was poor. In fact, if you look at it from a number of, probably the way Maresca would be looking at it, I mean, it was. Let's just imagine we were playing against any other mid-table team. It would have been like, what the hell are we doing? I think the fact that it was United certainly carried some weight. I think the occasion and the timing of the game as well also brought a little bit of extra tension. Like, I felt a lot of tension within the stadium. And for me, I said it at half time, I was quite entertained watching the first half, not because the quality of football was great, but because I felt like both teams, even United, to be quite frank, they were giving it, and they were fighting for something. And I felt like there was certainly not old school. I mean, there's nothing old school about modern football, unfortunately, but I'm seeing them go in for challenges with that extra 5-10%, willing to get a yellow if need be. And I'm seeing players competing for those duels more so. And that's one thing that I did like about the game. And that's maybe more from a neutral standpoint than just Chelsea. But I felt like both teams were giving it a good crack. And then in the second half, obviously, our quality just shone through. But I think that the occasion itself, ultimately, it was a massive game. And we lived up enough to win that game, whether it was Bournemouth, whether it was United, whether it was Liverpool, whoever it was. We know that Chelsea fans in the stadium are going to rise to the occasion when something is when it really counts. And I did feel that. And although when you do dive into the nitty gritty, and I do agree with what you're saying, guys, as well, especially about the crosses into the box. I mean, this is like, I mean, I'm a coach. I'm a tennis coach, and you say the same fucking thing to the kids every week. Do this, do this, do this, do this, and you kind of get into the habit of thinking to yourself, "I just got to keep saying it," because there's not processing in their brain. It's like we keep saying buy a striker, but they still haven't done it.
You know what's weird though? Like, I don't necessarily mean yesterday, but there's been at times this season, right, where we've had someone, or where there's been Jackson playing or Guy or whatever, and we've had someone where we could cross into the box, but we wouldn't really do it. And then as soon as those players went off, and you maybe tried like, a winger down the middle or just something different, suddenly we'd start crossing it into the box to no one.
Mate, he's waiting for Cucurella to get in there. That's what it is.
And it was just all a little bit weird. But look, ultimately, like for me, I kind of expected it to be a tight game, a bit of a tense affair. I think, I'm pleased that we managed to get through it, because, something that's been leveled at this group is not really being able to stand up and perform when the pressure's on. and that has been a fair accusation for a number of points this season, and certainly over the last couple of seasons. But it was important. It was a tense affair. It was nervy, but I was nervy because of what's at stake, knowing that we had to win to keep the Champions League hopes alive. And if we didn't, then it doesn't only, have ramifications for this season, but has ramifications for the next season and potentially the one after. And it certainly has a huge impact on your transfer window as well. So it wasn't just a massive win in terms of keeping our Champions League hopes alive. It's also a massive win in terms of potential transfer targets we may or may not be able to get. So yeah, it was just huge on so many levels.
No, I agree. It was a massive game. Like I'm totally. I've never been behind this throughout the season, but I mean, since what was the last game we played?
Newcastle.
Since Newcastle, I've been fully on the side of don't really care how you do it, just get a result. I think that when you're talking in January, December, even March, these conversations is important. I think fans should care about the way their teams play. I think that's important. I really do. You may not like it, you may like it, but I think you should care. And I think that you should take pride in the way your team plays. But when it comes to like Palace, they don't give a shit how they won the FA Cup. They just did it. We don't care how we're going to get in the Champions League. Just get the job done and then we can have a conversation. If the football turns out to be anything similar next season to what we've seen this season, or I would say in the struggling stages of this season, to be more specific, then I think we have a problem because we know we'll most likely have better players and we'll have a squad that have more experience and they've had time to gel together. That will be a real concern. But at this moment, we know how they play. Yeah. We just want to know that they can get it over the line. And if that's Cucurella, so be it. If Robert Sanchez bangs in a goal from a 96th minute corner, I don't care how we do it against Nottingham Forest. But that's the thing. I don't know who we're going to lean on because it's not going to be Jackson. I mean, we need someone to pull it out.
Just quickly on the Maresca thing. Do you know what's interesting, right? And I've seen this on Twitter today. I'm just reading it now. It's interesting how, like, when you actually see the numbers written down, how it can kind of change perception or warp perception. So in the first 17 games of the season, we had 10 wins out of 17 and we were second in the form table. From game week 18 to 26, which is when we were struggling, that was 2 wins in 9 and we were 16th in the form table. However, from game week 27 to 37, we've had 7 wins from 11 Premier League games, second in the form table. So basically what we're saying here is that people are pissed with a manager based on 9 matches between game week 18 and 26. For me, you don't change a manager based on 9 games.
No.
So when you hear it like that, it's actually, I know at that point it wasn't good and we weren't picking up good results or playing well. When you actually take a step back and you see it written down like that, it does give you a lot of context that gets missed out when you go into games and you're losing and it feels like the worst thing in the world and you're angry, and rightfully so. And a lot of those criticisms were valid then and are probably still now. But when you see it, arguably the only big issue has been that period of 2 wins in 9 in sort of January to March's time.
Yeah, I think a huge part of it is timing. Like anything, I mean, I'd be very open. Even if we get top 5, I'm still not a fan. But I can respect an achievement. Oh my God, I'm not going to say sack the guy if he's achieved his goals. Absolutely not. And there's a genuine argument to keep Maresca on side, which I see more so now than I did month and a half ago. Let's just say like that, before the Fulham game or whatever it was. That wasn't even a month and a half, probably a month ago.
Yeah.
Couple of weeks.
But do you know what's interesting though? Like as you rightly say, timing's really important because we've spoken about this at various points in the season. If that spell that I've just said of 2 wins in 9, let's say a couple of those losses were put in that first part of the season when we were doing well, and then a couple were put in this run where we've won 7 and 11, then you've still lost the same amount of games and you're still on the same points. But because the losses have been more spread out and they've come at different points in the season rather than a number in a short space of time, people, whether rightly or wrongly, that gets viewed in a very different way.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I agree. Timing is everything. I think for me, it's not just about results. Though there's a lot more that goes to it. I mean, we look at that bad period, for example, and I can't remember what game specifically. I'm guessing.
Oh, it lost away at Ipswich.
I'm guessing Arsenal was probably in there.
Arsenal, yeah.
I'd say I think that was the Fulham, Ipswich, Everton.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else was in there.
No, that was the more recent ones. No,
that was
Ipswich away.
Oh, away. Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that you said was January.
Palace away. We drew 1-1. Not a great game.
But I don't think it's the result. It's the way that those results happen, and also it's what you hear after these results, and the approach. That's where a lot of the frustration comes in. But again, I don't think now is the time to really speak about Maresca and what we love and what we don't love. We've had this conversation many times, and we'll have it again at the end of the season.
You take stock end of the season now, isn't it? You've got two massive games. You've got Forest, which you need to win for Champions League football, and then we've got the Conference League final.
I think that we just need to go into this and ultimately, look, I'm not sitting here right now saying Maresca. I'm saying, can we just support the team for a game, guys? And then we play it by ear. We'll play it by ear. I'm certainly not shouting Maresca out right now, but I am not going to sit here and say that I believe he is the man to leave Chelsea forward. I'm certainly not in that camp. But there's not really a top manager to come in and replace him. And the argument of stability is a very fair argument. It's a very fair argument. I mean, my anger was always, why don't we just do this last season? Literally could have had stability. We'd be in our third season under a manager. But
second season.
We've moved. No, we'd be going into our third season.
Sorry,
already. So that's part of the frustration for me. But if this is your guy, if this is who you want to back, if you believe that you made a mistake, they obviously do, because they wouldn't have sacked Pochettino, so they believe that was a mistake. Then that's fine. Back Maresca, back him, and then we will know where the cards are. If you don't show your hand, then we don't know. But we'll find out whether we've got money to spend. And if we do have money to spend, we've got to find out how we're going to spend it. Because it's very different investing 50 million in Brazil on a 16-year-old I'm not going to watch for 7 years than, a striker who's playing in Turkey who can win me a league title next season. And that's not even an understatement if he's fully fit. So those are the levels we're looking at. And we'll just have to wait and see. But until that point, I think that ultimately the debate about Maresca is pretty meaningless, to be honest. It's just not the right time to speak about it.
No, definitely not. You wait until the last two games pan out, and then depending on how those go, then you have a separate conversation at that point in time. One thing I would like to praise the manager for, and I know people have kind of questioned it, I think his management of Reece James has been almost exceptional, because James last night, I think it was his 25th appearance of the season. That's his most since the 21-22 season, right? This is a 24-25. That's his most appearances he's made now in his last three seasons. 25 appearances. He's kept himself fit since January. And I've moaned myself at times him playing in midfield. It doesn't necessarily get the best out of him. It doesn't suit him. But in terms of a load management, in terms of protection, in terms of looking after his body, in terms of really building his fitness up, I think the manager deserves credit for that. He started at right back last night. Yes, he was inverting and whatnot. He had a good game. It was a positive impact. We've complained about Reece not having enough of an impact in the final third this season because of perhaps how the system is. It doesn't always allow him to get forward as much and get into the final third as much as we'd like him to. He produces a superb bit of quality on the ball with the cross into Cucurella. And I just think, all in all, it's great to see him back playing on a semi-regular basis and a lot more frequently than he has done. Reece deserves credit for that, for the way that he's come back from all these setbacks and whatnot. But I also feel that the manager deserves a lot of credit for the way that he's managed him and the way that he's handled him.
I think there's two sides to that, and that one of the sides is definitely fitness. And I agree that from a footballing standpoint, if you're looking to rotate in the Conference League and play him in the midfield, He works. He can play in that position. I don't think it's a viable option in the Premier League. Just don't really agree with him inverting, to be honest with you. And I think that he'll give you, a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 in the Conference League. He'll be solid in those competitions. He'll be pretty mediocre when he's playing in the Premier League. So if you're looking for availability, I mean, that is the best ability ultimately, and that's one of my biggest criticisms with Fofana. And if Reece James stays fit, then I say credit to him. But I'm not going to sit here and act like, even from a fitness perspective, yeah, you would definitely give Maresca credit. But from a football perspective, I don't see how James has improved apart from that. So that's the flip side. But I appreciate the argument.
I think him just being fit is a massive improvement. I know we want the quality and we want him to be making a big impact, but I think just the fact that he's been available since January, and I know that's not shouldn't be like lauded as some sort of achievement for most players, but given all the setbacks and the issues that he's had, I think that's a massive step forward.
Maybe we just need to accept that we haven't got a world-class player anymore. And
we still do. We
don't. He's not world-class when he inverts.
Yes, he is.
When he inverts, he's not world-class.
Yes, he is. He's still world-class. Yes, yesterday the goal comes from him inverting.
World-class as a right-back.
Yesterday we scored from him inverting. That cross comes from him inverting into midfield.
So that makes him world-class.
Yes, he's world-class. He's a world-class player. He's a world-class player.
Look, it's like saying, right, if you've got, let's just take one for example, like it's like saying, if Kylian Mbappe plays in midfield, right?
He's not as effective. He's not world-class in that position.
No, but he's still a world-class player regardless of where he is on the pitch because he's got world-class ability. Now,
so we'll play him as a goalkeeper then.
Yeah, but Reece James has got Reece James got world-class ability. No, Reece James has got world-class ability, right? And as Scott says, people have been on Maresca for James inverting. Not once in that game yesterday did James overlap Neto. Neto was always providing a whip. So the goal
you can't have good games.
So the goal
he deserves credit for the assist as well. But to say that he's world-class playing in that position is just not true.
It is true.
It's not true. It's not.
It is true. What? Okay, why is he not world-class?
World-class this season. Are you telling me he's been world-class?
Yes. When he's played, yes.
No way. No way.
Yes, he has been.
No way.
He's had one poor game playing in midfield or inverting this season when he's done it. He is a world-class player. Defensively, he's world-class, and that isn't affected by where he plays.
He is a decent player when he inverts. He is a decent player.
No, he's not a decent player. That's underplaying him massively. He is world-class. Yes, it is.
He's not been world-class this year. It's not true.
He has.
Cucurella has been close to world-class. Caicedo has been close to world-class. Lavia, his best, has been top-notch. You cannot put Reece James's performances this season within the same conversation. You can't do it.
As Caicedo, no. As the rest of them, yes.
What?
I mean, I would say that Cucurella has performed to a higher level than Reece James overall this season. In certain games, sure.
Cucurella has been exceptional basically every week, bar maybe a couple of games. I can't say the same for Reece James. I'm by the way, I'm not disputing giving him credit, but he's not been world class. It's not true. He has not been world class.
To say he can't be world class in this position, I think is
no. I said he hasn't been world class.
I think he has personally.
God, mate, come on. Let's know in the chat. There you go. Hey, but it's a good debate. It is a good debate. But and there's nothing to say that he can't improve in that position.
No.
But I'm just saying, if you want to see the best Reece James, I think we've already seen it. But I still think we can see a very good Reece James.
I'm not sure
not the best.
Because I've heard people make this argument, right? The guy's 25. Like, and don't get me wrong, he's had a lot of injury issues. It's set him back and whatnot, and his body might not be the same as what it was pre those injuries. And we might not see him get up and down the pitch like he used to the extent under Thomas Tuchel and whatnot. But I don't subscribe to this trail of thought that Reece James can't be that player or close to a version of that player that we've seen under Thomas Tuchel, for example. I know we don't play the same system and whatnot, but I don't think I don't think we've seen the best of him. I think we can see a lot more from him next season. Look, obviously, it's a totally new way of him playing this year. He's not used to it. A year, say half a season of that under his belt, you'd expect him to be better in that system next season if we continue with it. I would be very, very hasty to say that we've seen the best of Reece James.
If I was to give Reece James a rating out of 10 for how key he's been to this Chelsea side, I'd give him a 7 out of 10. He's been decent. He's been solid, but he's not been great and he's not been terrible.
No, I think that's I think that's fair. No, I think that's fair based on this season and the appearances. He's had some very good games and he's had some games where he's not been so good. But that quality that we saw on the ball for the pirouette, the ball into the box. When you actually, obviously in the stadium at the time, you didn't really realize it. But when you've seen it back at home this morning, bro, the guy's he's not even looking. He's kind of looking down at the floor. His eyes are almost closed to an extent, and he just knows where to put that ball, and he just knows that Cucurella is going to be there.
He's still the best crossover ball we have in this team, and
easily.
And you see, and it's not even close. And you see with the goal yesterday, that's not even lost him playing in midfield and inverting. And that's what I say of I understand people want to see him as this overlapping, marauding right back, and that sounds fun and that sounds cool. But all of his best attributes, you don't lose by him doing what he's doing. Defensively, he's still incredible, both wide 1v1 and in midfield. On the ball in terms of passing, still incredible, and you get to see that potentially even more in midfield. The crossing, you see with the positions he picks up yesterday, still able to do it. Yes, he can't hit those, crosses from the byline and the stuff that we were seeing Neto try and do yesterday, but we don't have a striker anyway in those positions to take advantage of that, so I don't really care at the moment. I just don't think you lose anything in terms of his best attributes by playing him the way he plays. It's not like a Trent, for example, where with Trent, it's when you play him in midfield, you lose the ability for him to pick the ball up deep on the right-hand side and hit those looping balls in. Reece doesn't do those often. That's not his specialty. So he can still do his crosses that he likes to do, the old Aspi to Morata type crosses.
And listen, this can work well
from a deeper position. You're not going to see. Sorry, quickly, man. You might not see as much. Him, as Scott said, getting right to the byline and whipping balls in. I think you're going to see them crosses coming from deeper with James, almost sort of halfway between the halfway line and the byline. I think you might see a lot more crosses coming from that sort of area because in this system, he's probably going to be picking up the ball in those kind of pockets more. You see where on the left side, the spaces that Cucurella pops up in, that's probably where you're going to see James appear most. And that's where a lot of his balls into the box are likely to come from, edge of the box, sort of a little bit deeper, rather than because he's not overlapping anymore. You're not going to see those crosses coming in on the outside and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that he can be a key player for us. Let's not. I don't want to sound like I don't want to see Reece James ever in.
No.
But I don't think that we'll see him get to the heights that he got under Thomas Tuchel. I don't think we'll see it. I think his peak has passed. I think that's mostly because of his injuries. But listen, we'll find out. Can he improve this team? Absolutely. He can be a key part of this team. He's our captain. He's actually won things at this club. This is one thing that we need. If you look at players who have actually won trophies before they come to Chelsea, very limited list, if any, actually. I mean, Fernandes won the World Cup. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I think we worked this out the other day. It's 3, I think.
Yeah.
Cucurella won the Euros, but that was when he was already at Chelsea.
I think it's Enzo, actually.
We used to have all the international club captains, and now
James as well, by the way, is the only player in the current squad now who's actually won a trophy at Chelsea.
Chalobah, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. No, he has. He's won the Club World Cup.
The Club World Cup.
Yeah, so I guess to a degree, yes, you could say that. But yeah, there's literally 1-2 players in the current squad who've actually known what it's like.
Yeah, there is. I'm just looking at it now. There are, depending on how you define current club, there are 5 players.
Oh, you looking at Sterling as well?
No, I was looking at Mudryk, actually.
Oh, he won the Ukrainian league.
He's won the title in Shakhtar, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so
fair
like there's 5 or 6 players who won something.
Dewsbury Hall won the championship.
Yeah, that's what
before
I'm saying. I was about to say
he-
at various levels there are 5 or 6 players that won something before coming to Chelsea. Like
Yeah.
again, varying levels of success.
I mean, we definitely need to build up some experience within the team. One player that I was actually I was impressed with, to be fair, especially in the second half, was Noni Madueke. And I feel like I don't know what it is about big games. Well, in this particular big game, let's just use that as an example. I felt like he had an extra edge, an extra intensity. Before we scored that goal, I don't know if you saw it, Charlie, in the stadium. Palmer had a right go at the midfield, at whoever it was up top, because they weren't making runs. He had a right
George was
go.
making no movement.
And he was very vocal. And I'm not joking, within a minute and a half of that, 2 minutes, we scored. And I thought, fair play to you, Palmer, mate, leading the line, because sometimes you just need someone to get vocal. But if there's one player I thought, actually, you are doing all right anyway, was Noni Madueke. Even though he missed that sitter, he come out and he said he needs to work on his shooting. But I was pretty happy with his performance. And this is a player who I think we can all agree has definitely improved under Maresca. And not only has he improved in terms of his natural position, but we found out that he can play on both sides as well.
Yeah, look, I think he's definitely someone that has pushed on. You can take this one of 2 ways. He's been Chelsea's most productive winger. Now, that's either because and that could be because the others haven't done as well as they should have done. But Madueke has also done reasonably well. He has scored a few goals this season. I know, yes, he got a hat-trick against Wolves and then he scored against Wolves again in the return fixture. But the goals still count, regardless of who they're against or how many come in one game. Like, you'd like to see him score maybe on a more consistent basis. But yeah, he's productive and he looks a threat when he gets the ball. He's not afraid to run at his man. He's not afraid to take his man on. And really importantly, which not a lot of our wingers do, in fact, he's the only one that does it, sometimes too often, but he's prepared to have a shot. He will take the shot on. Whereas the likes of your Netos or your Sanchos, their first thought perhaps isn't to take the shot on. It's more, can we find someone? Can we get a ball in the box? Can we pick another pass or whatever? Or I'll recycle possession backwards. So yeah, look, Noni's had a productive season. He's had a positive season. He should be here next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if clubs came in with offers for him.
What do we value Noni Madueke out? What do we pay? 35?
29 it was.
29.
Yeah, so I'd say 40, 45.
I don't think that you sell him if you're serious as a club.
No.
Even if you buy Jamie Gittins. Apparently he's our saviour from Dortmund.
I think it depends. I wasn't as impressed with Noni yesterday. I think he had some nice moments. Like when he was the only one of our wingers when they were getting to the byline, was actually trying to cut it back rather than just hitting and hoping. But he and indeed Neto, and I think all of our wingers have shown this season, that none of them have that spark in terms of.
I think Madueke has a spark. No,
I don't think so. I'm not in the way that like the real top. When I talk about spark, I'm talking top wingers, and like I'm talking like top level. You're looking at like your Elise's. You look at your like the real top level guys. Your Vinny's on his day. Your Miles, Rodrigo's. These kind of guys like. And like I said, this is the case with all our wingers. All of our wingers don't have this. And I think you saw it yesterday where part of why it looks so bad for us at times is like, I go back to us under Sarri, and yes, I'm comparing some of these players to Hazard, which is probably unfair, but even at times under Sarri where, and he wasn't this bad as a manager, I don't think, but even when sometimes it was boring or we were having unsuccessful moments, he would be the one to kind of put the game on his back and spring to life and have some moments. And none of our wingers have that ability, like none of them. And that's like, for me, we need investment in that area in terms of top quality. I would move heaven and earth to get Rodrigo to this football club.
Well, apparently that could actually happen.
I don't think we'll get him. I don't see him leaving personally, unless he wants to push for a move. And if he does, I can think of at least 3 teams that would probably get him over us. but I would move heaven and earth to get that. And
that's the caliber we need to look at.
Because
just quickly, sorry, mate, on Madueke, right? I think we have to be honest with ourselves here. I've had this conversation before. There's a number of players who start regularly for us now who should really be squad players.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Madueke falls into that category. He, in my opinion, shouldn't be someone that if you're serious about winning Premier League titles and winning the major trophies, he can play a role, but he shouldn't be someone that's starting every single week.
I agree. And I think on your point, Alex, I think on your point about like, I wouldn't sell him. I would, but I'd sell all of our wingers at this point outside of George because
I mean that's from like I understand where you're coming from. You'd replace some with better players, but realistically speaking,
I understand. It's the same reason
they benefit us next season.
Potentially, yeah, but I also understand from a realistic standpoint, it's the same reason I know, even though I would, you can't steal all of our centre backs. You have to keep at least like 2 or 3 because that's not realistic. But I think the number of players that you would say in this team are unsellable under any circumstances, you could probably count on one hand at this point that don't have a price tag. And so, yes, I just think you see with our wingers and other players in the team who I imagine we might get to, there is just, whether it's a system issue that they just don't quite fit with how the system works, or there isn't that spark from them, the quality level just isn't there all the time.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think a lot of it is to do with youth. I mean, going back to the spark point as well, I won't touch on it too much longer because we'll move on in a second. I do think that spark is something that can be developed and nurtured. And if there's one player that I would say could have that out of all of our wingers, I would say that Madueke is that player. I don't necessarily see it in Sancho. He's not a match winner for me consistently. I'm not sure I would say the same about Neto in terms of him being able to rack up a lot of GA. George, maybe. You never know. He's a bit young. It's hard to tell.
If we sign a top striker who's got that box presence, I think we'll suddenly have a different conversation about our wingers, because I think Pedro Neto will suddenly have a lot more assists. Madueke may have a few more assists as well. Sancho also. I think that makes a big difference as well. And I think because the fact we've not really had a proper focal point up front has impacted potentially the output of some of our wingers, especially Neto, who's never been a goal scoring winger in his career, someone that's always been creative. Not having that striker in the box for him to try and pick out, I think has obviously had a negative effect on his output this season. Obviously, he's not done well enough on the whole. We need to see more from him and more improvement, because a player of his quality should be producing more. But I think if you do have that striker in the box, you will see a marked improvement in his output.
Let's move on to the midfield, guys. One thing that I was really, actually, I'll be honest with you, until someone brought it up to me, I was like, holy shit, Lavia's not on the pitch. What's going on here? That's got to be just trying to rest him physically. For me, that's not a tactical decision, but if it was tactical, do you think there's any benefit to not playing Lavia or starting Lavia in the game? Because he only come on after 80 minutes.
Yes and no. I think not starting him is fine, but I think you saw in the game yesterday with stuff I touched on earlier, you saw what we missed. He's the most pressure resistant midfielder we have in our team. Sorry, and I include Caicedo in that. Obviously, Caicedo has other attributes way beyond Lavia, but that one thing I would say Lavia has above him. And I think it was also just the performances of other players that I would say, for me, like that midfield yesterday was the good, the bad, and the ugly from the 3 of them. And I think you can probably work out which is which. Yeah, like you had exceptional on one hand, you had just completely off it on another, and then just shouldn't be on the pitch in the third. And yeah, I think with Lavia,
maybe not everybody knows.
So exceptional, obviously, is Caicedo, like player of the season, best midfielder in the league. Like you can argue with a tree or the wall or anything else. Like argue with yourself.
He was outstanding.
Yeah, he's the best midfielder in the league, and no free kicks, no badge kissing, no knee slides. Passion can tell me otherwise. Bad, which is Cole Palmer, just ineffective. Really, again, this. I know we've had this debate, Alex, this dropping deep thing, and I think there are games when it's worked. You saw it against
Everton.
Yes, there was another game, Liverpool. It worked. This game it didn't. It was just bad. I know you mentioned earlier about him getting annoyed, players like not moving in the attack, but even when they were, he just wasn't at it. I know people say, oh, he could have had 2 assists, and I understand that would have masked a poor performance. And then the ugly was Enzo. Like, he was just awful. Like, especially in that first half, just awful. And you see what he takes away from this team when he's not adding with his passing. Like, defensively, there's nothing. Not press resistant really at all. So when we were getting pressed, he kept losing the ball. And yeah, like, it wasn't good enough. And it makes me think, going back to, like, slightly to the Reece James discussion of, you look at where our best team is next season. My hope is partly hope, but also my thinking is when Andre Santos gets in this team, I think that's his position to eventually take. And
especially
then you
when in games where we're not going to be as dominant on the ball.
I think though Enzo plays a lot better when Lavia's playing. That because
everyone does.
Well, everyone does, but I think it also greatly benefits him because there is not as much defensive responsibilities, and he probably doesn't have to cover quite as much ground as he would compared to if Lavia's not there, and it allows him to get further up the pitch where he is effective, where he has had an impact, and where he's massively improved in terms of arriving in the box, in terms of creating goals, and in terms of scoring goals. So, look, it wasn't great last night. You know, he lost possession a number of times, and particularly in that first half, the passing was nowhere near his usual standard. But I think overall, when you look at someone like Enzo this season, he's improved massively. He's got 20 GNA in all competitions this season for us, which I think is a good return for a central midfield player. You know, we've been blessed with having Frank Lampard, the greatest to ever do it in terms of scoring goals from midfield. And I'm not comparing Enzo to Lampard in that sense, but to have a midfielder who's contributed 20 GNA in all competitions, that must have been, surely no one's done that since Lampard. I've not looked at the stats, but I'd imagine that no midfield player at Chelsea's done that since Lampard.
I agree. And I just talking on the midfield, I just wanted to touch on Caicedo quickly again, because I don't think people that don't watch Chelsea understand how much we're limiting his game because of how he has to play, if that makes sense. Like, you saw in the game yesterday, there were moments like the George penalty. That's a Caicedo through ball. Caicedo's the one who plays that ball through to George. And it's like, we haven't seen that this season because of what he's had to do for the team. And
I think there's been a few moments where he's been great. But I agree, it has been when Lavia's been on the pitch.
Yeah, and it's been few and far between, because he needs to be the anchor of this midfield, because like there's no one really else, especially when Enzo, like I said, plays, and when Palmer's in there, you're not really getting much defensively from them. So he's the anchor to it all. And so he's had to give up a little bit of that going forward because he's not being able to show it as much. And I think the fact that he has done that, and he's really like a box 8 that's basically played as a 6 the whole season, and like I said, has been the best midfielder in the league. It's scary to think the level this guy could get to. Like, we have seen probably 70% of the level of what he can produce, and he's already like I said, I'll keep saying it. He's best in the league this season, and we've seen 70%. There's one player that can chat to him in midfield in the league, and he's been injured the whole season.
Do you know?
That's how good a player we've got.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying it to Alex last night, right? We are taking for granted how good he is. It's just like, because he drops this level of performance on a consistent basis, you almost to a degree, sort of, rather than marveling at it, you're almost just like, well, Caicedo was his usual self again today. You almost get a bit blasé about it and just kind of pass it off. But what he's doing, and the level that he's doing it on, and the consistency that he's doing it with, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. There's a reason why he started all 37 league games for us this season. And people talk about Palmer, rightly so, and others. Caicedo is our most important player, because without him, and I hope this doesn't happen, I hope this day doesn't come, but if we're being realistic, at some point it will. The day that we're without Caicedo for a significant period of time could be a massive problem. I know now they've got Santos to come in. I know they signed a Sugu, who's going to be a backup to Caicedo. So there are obviously some potential alternative options, but we've not had to play without Caicedo at all since he arrived 2 seasons ago. And I think that could be a big question mark when that day eventually arrives, or when that period of time arrives, where we have to play without him for a few games. Then you could see something very different. But he's definitely our most important player, but hands down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we said this in January. We were like, if Caicedo's gone, then we're done.
Well, I think not even just Caicedo. I think you speak about Palmer. I think we see this season, and maybe it's down to like the poor performances. Maybe it's a bit of recency bias, but I don't think even after Caicedo, just because there's another player I want to touch on as well. After Caicedo, the next most important player in his team is Cucurella.
Yeah,
definitely.
And
this season, 100%. Well,
he is.
Are you saying important player, or are you saying
most important player? And I think you see that the games where he missed when he was suspended, and we didn't have. Was Vega here at that point when he was suspended? I don't think he was when we had to play Gusto and James together.
No, he was here, but he played in that Liverpool.
He played Gusto and James, didn't he? Yeah, you saw in that game, and I think there was another game where he didn't play, where how important he was to the team and the way we played.
Away, wasn't it? James left back.
So, but he is so important. It's not just the goals. He now is, by the way, the joint highest scoring defender in the league this season.
And he's our top scorer as well. In 2025, he's got 5 goals. He scored the most goals out of anyone at Chelsea.
That's so bad. But you see the importance in terms of like defensively, in terms of setting that tone of like the shithousery stuff. Like he's obviously not the same level, but the stuff Costa used to do, like getting in players' heads, to just being a nuisance to play against. Like I can't remember who it was. It might have been Gary Neville or someone I saw tweet that like if you weren't a Chelsea fan, you would hate Cucurella, but Chelsea, if you're a Chelsea fan, you love him because the way he plays, and it's just everything he's bringing to this team this season. And he's another one. Argue with your nan, he's the best left back in the league. You can take Robinson, Kirkes, all these guys. He's the best left back in the league. I don't care.
I also think, like, I was having this conversation with someone, I can't remember who it was now, but is there any Chelsea player who's had a redemption like he's had after having such a difficult first season? Normally, players who have a first season as difficult as he had don't really recover from it. I can't really think of one where someone who's had a bad first season like Cucurella has come back to establish themselves as not only a fan favourite, but a top player and one of the club's most important players.
I think the only player you could compare is probably different circumstance, probably Chalobah, isn't it? In terms of the way he was exiled and then called back.
I don't think Chalobah's the same because I don't think
Drogba was close to leaving in that first season potentially. I mean, it wasn't a terrible first season, by the way, but you know there are a lot of there. It wasn't happy. You know, I think he was even booed at times, if I remember rightly. So I think the one you could probably compare it to the most is Drogba, but yeah, other than that, there isn't anyone.
Yeah, I saw someone try and compare Rudiger, which like I can hear from of going so low to so high, but he wasn't booed and wasn't hated like with such vitriol that Cucurella was. But you can kind of see the like going from such a low. I don't think he even was starting at times under Sarri. To get into where he got under Tuchel. But yeah, like it's been a turnaround. And I think, and I know this was echoed, I think, last night on Sky by Roy Keane and Jamie Redknapp of this is why you just need to have patience with some players. And like, because I know this is easy to say now, but I saw this coming because this is a player who, this was the level he was putting at Brighton. He was the best left back in the league before we bought him. People looked at the price and looked at the fact he was displacing Chilwell, who was a popular player, but was injury prone and on the down. And he didn't have a good first season, but tell me a player that did in that season under Potter. And then yeah, like he had his house burgled. I think that's that year as well. Like, and it was just a whole lot of things going on.
A lot of personal problems.
Yeah, and it was a lot of stuff going on. And then the turnaround he's had, and like you started to see it from last season. You know, when he played at right back, he was good. Obviously not this good, but there was comfortable performances at right back. And he played at left back, and you started to see, okay, this looks like a different player. And since he came into the team from last season onwards, it's just been strength to strength. And like, it's the one crumb of positivity I'll give Pochettino is he played him and cup tied him in that cup game. That's the one positive thing I can say about him. Because otherwise, he'd be United right now.
Yeah, he would have gone on loan to United. I mean, it's mad. He was so close to leaving, but yeah, no, he's outstanding. So important to what we do, and yeah, the way that we play suits him absolutely perfectly.
Hey, listen, I think we're very lucky to have Cucurella. My only fear with Cucurella is the same fear that I have with players like Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez as well, which is that if Chelsea don't fulfill the goals and achievements that we need to in order to attract better players, then we'll see our better players wanting to go elsewhere. And that's the only fear that I have.
Enzo, yes, I agree, because he's that type of player. Caicedo and Cucurella especially, I don't see that with. The only way I see Cucurella going, me personally, is I think if Real Madrid or Barcelona. Yeah, especially Barcelona, because he came from their academy.
If we renewed their contract, Cucurella's contract, for example, do you think we would offer him a pay rise?
We should do.
Should
How much is he on?
I don't know what he's on, to be honest, but
he's on close to 200 grand.
He was signed in that first window, wasn't he? When there was no wage structures. Yeah,
I say he is on one of the highest, but I don't know. I don't know
if he signs a new deal, I think he would warrant a small increase. Yeah,
he is on. He's on 175.
175. It's a lot.
You could go up.
You think Clearlake could go? I mean, I hope they do.
Apparently, if we make I would say if we make Champions League, there's no reason why he shouldn't go up to at least 200k.
His money will go up anyway. His money will go up regardless.
Yeah. I feel like him and some of the other players that were signed when Bowley was running things, they are not on the incentivized contracts.
I don't think so. No. Yeah, because that was
deals. Yeah, Fofana as well.
Because that was part of it with Havertz as well. Was we gave him a new contract, and then we wanted him to take a reduced contract the year after to one of the incentivized one. He said no.
Fair enough, isn't it? I would have probably said no as well.
Especially when you're on like 200 something K a week, I do kind of understand it.
Hey, listen. Let us know what you think, guys. Do you agree or disagree with anything we've said about the Man United game? Also, let us know your thoughts going into the Forest match as well. I'm going to give a score prediction. We'll do a quick score prediction for the Forest game, just off the back. I am going to say 2-1 to Chelsea.
That's really boring. I was going
the only other way I'd go different is I'd say 1-1, but I want to be positive and say we'll win. So yeah, I think it'll be 2-1.
I was edging towards 2-2, and I thought
I'll go 2-1. We'll have something to celebrate.
Oh, listen, thanks so much for coming on, Charlie. Appreciate it, mate, and you as well, Scott. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate everyone listening as well for the full episode, and we will catch you very, very soon. All the best, guys, and enjoy the rest